The Dauntless. I did not think that my meeting warranted both a visit from the august Speaker of the Council and such formal attire. Jericha Greatblade remarks as she's led into Admiral Cistern's office and sees that he has Lady Tycanped on his lap and is formally dressed in an outfit that actually matches her shimmering white plumage. Oh, nothing to be concerned about, Miss Greatblade. I just like being around my man after a night well spent, Lady Tycanped says with a definite husk in her voice. Oh, congratulations. I don't put much stock into rumors, but this is a happy one, Jericha remarks as she walks up to the desk. Private Stream, could you have some refreshments for our guest brought up? Admiral Cistern says as she sits down in a chair he had indicated with a swing of his hand. The door opens again. I knew you'd want this, sir. Here we are. A Horchka spice wine and a bowl of mildly seasoned kettle chips, edible for everyone and delicious to taste, the young-looking soldier says happily as he bounces into the room without spilling things and sets it all down. Kettle chips? Lady Tycanped asks. Oh, from potatoes, a tuber that grows so fast it'd be a weed if it wasn't so tasty. They're called chips because these thin slices are small chips of a potato. Kettle because that's what it's cooked in. Enjoy, Private Stream explains before nearly skipping out of the room. Is he a child? He's affecting being a child. He's a low-profile bodyguard and assistant. Private Stream in full uniform, as he was there, is heavily armed and armored. Though, speaking of arms, how may we assist you, Miss Greatblade? Ah, of course. I'm not sure if you know, but there are many protected forms of arms. The sword of a Crimson Hewer, the Endless Barrage, and Talius Honor Maces. The list would take all day to get through a quarter of it. All of these are under protections. Protections that you've slapped onto a lot of information from the Dauntless. Yes, about that. It was a reflexive move after we had the entirety of our cybersecurity utterly compromised less than a day after setting down on Centris. Those days were very confusing. I can imagine so. Still, to stay on topic, you've enacted legal protections on human artistry and disallowed copies without a license. Now, there are licenses for purchase for all forms of media and historical information. At first I assumed a decimal point had been moved. Then, after some inquiry, I found that you really are licensing out everything for an absurdly cheap price, she states, and there's a clear question in her voice but not in her words. For the unspoken question, ma'am, the information was out and stolen. I had to make a price competitive with Frey, so I did. Official and legal purchases for a pittance means there's little if any spyware risk and no risk of legal repercussion. So it's more a convenience of not dealing with such things that is actually being paid for. The rest I already effectively gave up as a loss with how easily information can be copied, stolen, and distributed. And your legal team's outright hunting down those with illegal copies. They justify the price, madam, Admiral Cistern says with a smile. I see. Thank you for satisfying my curiosity. Now, what kind of price would you place on the production and reproduction of human melee weaponry? On an individual basis or as a license? A license, please. Certainly. I've actually had a proposition for a license prepared ahead of time, Admiral Cistern says, pulling a file out of his desk and handing it over. Please tell me if there's anything you disagree with. Why is this broken up according to Continental Designs? There are a lot of different weapons and equipment based all over the world. You'll notice there's also a blanket license. But frankly, I'm going to be beating out political fires of all kinds that are going to come after me from the home world, and breaking up the license like this at least slows down the madness. That's clearly not my business. These prices are very reasonable. A request to ensure that the culture of origin is mentioned in the weapon's description. Again, beating out a political fire before it can ignite. Admiral Cistern replies, and Greatblade lets out a little huff of amusement. I do not envy your position, Admiral. No, I most certainly do not. Will you require a physical signature, or will a digital one suffice? I had assumed you yourself did not like using digital media. I prefer face-to-face conversations, but the ability to write was never something my tutelage covered. Jericha explained somewhat awkwardly. I understand. As other tools are so prevalent, older abilities are left to the wayside. Still, writing is far from difficult. Speed comes with practice. If you wish to sign a physical form, then you may, and I'll even give you the pen. If you prefer digital signatures, then that also works. I can sign the paper, Jericha says, and accepts a pen from Admiral Cistern. She looks it over and snorts in amusement to see the logo of the Undaunted. My public relations department swears up and down that things like that are a good idea. He offers by way of explanation. I see, she says, and she slowly writes her name first in galactic trade, then a traditional Horchka language. A 5-year license to produce human pattern melee weapons. Such a trivial price. Again, what you're really doing is paying to have a legal department look elsewhere. The information is already available. Admiral Cistern notes somewhat wryly. Indeed. Is something the matter? Lady Tycanped asks. It's just funny how so many rumors began about your race, and after all the stories I'm confronted by an individual so reasonable that I would actually be comfortable with digital communications. It's rather odd. I'm not sure if I should be sorry or pleased that I've been so disappointing in such a way, Admiral Cistern notes. Either way, a pleasure doing business with you, sir. You will have the first payment before the end of the day, and I'll be able to start advertising new product tomorrow. Incidentally, can you send me a copy of the catalog in digital format? My soldiers are capable of forging their own weapons, but professionally done tools capable of piercing high-end armor is going to be quite the temptation for them. Most certainly. I'm always happy to have new customers. Excellent. There may be much to say about a weapon confiscated from a beaten foe, but something made for your personal use is just that much better. Your soldiers have been looting their enemies. Confiscation, madam, is a proper method of defeating an opponent and ensuring they don't simply start to attack again. It's perfectly legal and in fact a method of self-defense. If you disarm someone and place the weapon in another room, it's merely responsible. And if that room is an armory of your own making, that does not matter, madam. It's a safely disarmed opponent, Admiral Cistern states, and Jericha fights down a slight laugh. Of course. Of course. Thank you for your time, Admiral, and she trails off as there's the sounds of a slight scuffle just outside. Admiral Cistern gets an odd look from both Lady Tycanped and Jericha as he sighs somewhat. If that is whom I think it is, then it would be best if we stay in here a little longer, he remarks before pressing a button on his desk and locking the door. What's going on? One of my researchers has children. One of those children is very fond of pranks, and another is very fond of glitter in industrial quantities. It's going to be a bit of a mess out there, and it will be a few minutes until she departs. Is this a regular thing? Jericha asks. No, but it has happened more than once. No one on the ship really has the heart to get in the way or even fully chase down the little girls when they get rambunctious, and so they just have to be cleaned up after. Admiral Cistern remarks. That seems like a rather large security gap, Jericha states. It's 12 half-grown Kobe girls long, Admiral Cistern admits. Thankfully, it generally only lasts until their father can be informed. As if on cue, there is a sensation of an absurd amount of Axiom just being swept through, as if a living thing inside it suddenly woke up, moved, and went back to sleep. Problem solved. The blast zone is now clear. What was that? Jericha demands. Professor Ivan Grace, a researcher under my employ, a good man, but he's had a rough go of it. What happened? Lady Tycanped asks, but Admiral Cistern shakes his head. I'm afraid his personal details are not mine to share. He is still undergoing therapy to deal with his traumas, and his daughters are as well. The entire family had a bad time, but they're safe now, on the road to recovery and gainfully employed, which is as reasonably close to perfect as one can get after their situation. You have an Axiom adept that powerful in research? What are you researching? Wide-scale terraforming and the genesis of life? Jarisha demands in shock. I'm afraid the details are classified. However, his prodigious Axiom abilities are not a concern when it comes to his employment. There's something he can do, not what he does for a living. He prefers it that way. Admiral Cistern states before standing up and carrying Lady Tycanped with him. He then turns and places her into his seat. Still, madam, I believe our allotted time together has come to an end. He notes as he taps a desk button to unseal his office. Private Stream immediately enters. Sir, orders, sir? Private Stream asks with an exaggerated and overeager salute. We failed to avail ourselves of the lovely snack you brought us. Could you please package it up for Miss Greatblade to take home with her and then guide her out, please? Sir! Yes, sir! Private Stream replies, and he rushes through the room to grab the tray and rush out. Then, the moment he leaves, Private Stream enters the room, without a tray. There's a vaguely different cast around his face, but, Sir, this way, ma'am, please? Private Stream asks, and Jarisha blinks a little. Really? This is... May I keep the pen? Jarisha begins to remark before suddenly realizing she had reflexively pocketed the pen she had been given. By all means, Admiral Cistern states. Thank you, she says before starting to follow Private Stream. Have a good day, Admiral Cistern. I look forward to doing business with you. And I you, ma'am. May it be mutually profitable. Good day. Admiral Cistern replies, and Jarisha nods in response before leaving the room. The room just outside the office is being cleaned by a man who's clearly figured out that Axiom use is the best way to get bright pink and yellow glitter out of things. It gathers into a pair of containers, and as he glances towards them, he then quickly shifts his focus and clears an easy path for them to leave. Sir, thank you, sir. Private Stream thanks him and receives a chuckle. At ease, Private, he says before she's led back through the ship, and there's a pause as they approach the zero-gravity corridor. There's an out-of-order sign, and a Private Stream looks down it. Glitter down there, too? He calls into the corridor. Armies of plushes. I have no idea where the half-size sawed-off got them all, but we've got to clean this place out. The man cleaning up replies. Oh, okay. Shortcuts then, Private Stream says before turning to Jarisha. I'm so sorry, Miss Greatblade. This won't take much longer. He then pulls out his communicator and quickly types something out. Very good. This won't take much more, but I will need you to take my hand. She raises an eyebrow as she reaches downwards to the hand he's holding up high, and he begins counting down with his other hand. When they get to 2 fingers up, reality suddenly converts, and they're in a small room with only one exit. The soldier in the room with them offers them both a salute. A teleportation chamber? Anyone with an undaunted ID or in contact with someone who does can be brought to this from a huge range. It's very useful. Private Stream explains as he leads her out of the room. It's also really close to both the medical deck and the parking garages, and those are located close together in case you needed to rush someone into medical from outside. Exactly. Well-reasoned, ma'am, Private Stream says, taking a few steps out of sight. Then suddenly, Private Stream, with a slightly different cast of the face, rushes by the door. Excuse me. She leaves the room and looks to the right to where Private Stream rushed off. There's nothing. Something strange, ma'am? Private Stream asks from her left, and she turns to see him. With a paper bag and a bottle of Horchka spiced wine. I've packaged up your refreshments. Okay, how many of you are there? We are 1, Private Stream says in a chirpy voice. I doubt that, she replies. I told you, another Private Stream says from a nearby room as the door opens. He then looks up to her. Again, there's only something slightly off in his innocent-looking face. Not that it doesn't look innocent, it's that it's slightly different from the other private stream who's now sighing and walking towards him. "Fine, ma'am. This way, please." The private stream with the snack states, and she's promptly led into the parking garage and right back to her vehicle. "No, seriously, how many are there?" she asks in amusement as she opens her car door. "We are many." The private stream's answer is one. "And how long did this routine take to develop?" "Too long," they reply in the same chirpy tone, and she can no longer hold in the laugh.